Andrés Franco es gerente de asuntos corporativos de Bear Creek Mining Company, que trabaja en Puno. ¿En qué parte de Puno están?
There are 11 provinces, and we are in the province of Carabaya. That has around 75,000 inhabitants in the district of Corani, more precisely, and we are currently working in the peasant community of Chacaconiza.
¿Cuál es el mineral?
The mineral is silver. We're hoping it's estimated to exploit 80 million annual ounces approximately, and an investment of around $750 million. I think all Peruvians, especially those of us who are involved in the mining industry, have to make an effort to develop further. Instead of relying on social leaders, we must strive to become true social leaders in the area. Our approach is that we don't want a specific leader to represent us, despite the affection we may have for leaders in the area and the extraordinary support of the mayor of Corani. We want to become leaders. And being a leader means being part of the community, being a part of its development, being a part of its actions, and that's our mission. In some way, this leadership helps to create a peaceful environment. I believe miners are obliged to, rather than staying away and criticizing, they must collaborate and participate, become actors in this peacemaking process, and understand that miners, farmers, the society, we can all work together to build a better country. The second point is ensuring that certain elements stay the same, such as cultures, such as idiosyncrasy, and their way of working that has helped them develop economically till now. How can we ensure this doesn't change? How can we improve it? How can we become more relevant? Our company's first concern is the people. Instead of thinking how to satisfy these people so they agree with the mine investment, we focus on how to help them achieve the success we long for, to let us all develop and succeed together as a group. Then we started working on it. We're not only concerned about whether they're happy with us or not. We want to find every detail and understand them. And that's the real difference. We turn their comparative advantages into competitive advantages. We take each of their problems or any issue they may consider problematic, and we use them as a great opportunity to promote development. Our philosophy is that we don't want any of them to work in the mine. We don't want any community member to depend on some company around the mine. We want their own products and customs to stand out, either at a touristic level or based on some other element. So we have to break the scheme. How can we get the activity they perform to make that big leap? And that big leap is made with science and technology, applied through engineering. And this is the value, or let's say the support, that we have used as a philosophy in order to be able to achieve all the things we've done so far.
Punto de vista de la empresa, ¿cómo fue el proceso? ¿Qué innovaciones han introducido ustedes?
Well, first of all, we need to understand three fundamental concepts. The first one of them is common sense. For example, these people also fall in love, they feel similar things such as envy, annoyance, discomfort, just like any other human being. I had a very interesting experience once. Let me tell you, I was walking by the street one day and saw a tablet and thought, I'll give this to my friend. And a tablet as a present, yes. And I said, I'm going to give this to a person I cherish a lot. So I gave it to her. And when she grabbed it, this gift I found on a store for her, she said, what's the tablet for? Have you been talking behind my back? You must have done something bad. And I understood that, yes, there must be something wrong. So I understood that if you go to a sector like that and start giving away presents to everyone without any reason, then they'll definitely start thinking something is wrong. They want something. And then when they ask you questions and you don't know how to answer them, they think something's wrong. So having common sense is essential in this process. Next, we have a holistic vision. What does it mean? I have an interesting example that could be considered something positive, but it's actually negative. You ask them, how many people are there? There are 150 families. Okay, then I'll create 150 jobs, one person per family. The average income in the area is 108 soles per capita. Okay, with the mine investment, they can double or triple their income. So I get to it and I start hiring people. Everyone's happy, all's good. But then something totally unexpected happens. I talk to the women of the community and they're upset. What's going on? We're not happy with the situation. What are you going to do about it? We're going to the mining site to burn it down. Interesting, but why? because you're a bad influence. You know, anthropologically, women can sense when someone is up to no good, or if their partner is misbehaving, it's because he's keeping some bad company, someone's up to no good. It wasn't one's fault, a bad company. So in this case, the bad company is the man. So what happened here? Easy, since the men's income increased, they've been drinking more often and other bad habits had increased as well, things we didn't anticipate at all. So we had to take some action to fix it. You must have a holistic vision. You must focus not only on the economic part, but also the psychological aspect, the ethical aspect, the moral aspect. You have to focus on several things. Now, we need to see that you have to consider everything, including the way they feel. It's not only about respecting their customs or understanding them. You have to think like one of them, because sometimes we miss these things and we can't understand them. But if you become one of them, the coexistence will be much easier. In that context, we not only had to talk with the leaders, but also make house-to-house visits. Some of our workers back in the area of Corani were in charge of this task. It was quite complicated, really hard, but they put a lot of effort and a lot of energy into it, and we managed to visit all the houses one by one. We integrated them, explained the baseline, talked to them, and introduced our product and our work. The third point is the product. One day I went to my colleagues, the people I worked with in the social department. I asked, do you guys know what a crusher is or grinding? What do we do in the mine? No, I have no idea. Do you know how the biting process works? No, I have no idea. Do you know what kind of chemicals we use to collect the minerals properly? I have no idea. Then what are you selling? When they ask us for something, we give it to them. So all we gotta do is go to some place, try to understand them as if we were talking to Martians who are asking us for several things, and we have to attend them to look good. But we don't sell the product. Do you know what our main product is? What we produce in the mine. You have to know if they agree with you before bringing a gift. And before planning any improvement, you have to sell the product. And what's that? Placing a mine in the area. We go there and tell them we're going to place a mining area. It will have these conditions and it's going to be like this. And there are questions and fear. Are the animals going to disappear? Will the water disappear? What's going to happen? So you explain them what mineral is being produced, how the mine is going to work, the processes, and the people start to overcome their fear. And that's so important, Jaime. People must lose their fear because things are changing now, and these people must accept you because they believe in you and actually understand that the mine is not going to hurt them or cause any damage, so they must overcome their fear. That's essential for us. Now, I know that's the key.
Por ejemplo, en el caso de cómo explicaban el tema de la mina, el tema de la producción de la mina.
Well, that's really interesting. You visit the areas, you show them a rock and you tell them, this rock, hold this rock for me, this stone. Inside this stone in your hand there are minerals, and they're worth around $5,000. Take out the minerals and I'll give you the money. Really? Oh, wow, how can I do that? They started turning the rock to one side, the other. Okay, let's crush it. They started to crush it and grind it, and once it was all crushed, I told them, so, did you find the mineral? No. So what now? Keep grinding it. So they keep grinding it a little more. I don't see it. Well, here's a principle of metallurgy. Minerals have a product, a substance that actually makes them float. They float in the water. If you see something floating, then that's it. That's the mineral. That's money. Okay, what do? Take the rock and put it in the water. Decant the mineral for a while, and the floating substance is the mineral. Oh, interesting. You have to put everything in the water and wait for a while to settle, then remove the mineral. Because sulfates are hydrophobic by nature, so their hydrophobic condition makes them float in the water. So they waited a while for the sulfate, in this case silver sulfate, to settle, and once it started floating, they drain it. And that's what we sell. That's the system. It's really simple. That's all we do. If you want, I can make it more complex, but there are no major complications. And when they understand that the process is simple, they understand the process with the machinery and what each one of the machines is for, things are way easier for us. They feel that the company is more transparent and more honest about their work. Then we had to present our project. The presentation of the project is actually very long. I'll only put the use of water as an example. We talked to the community members about the water components of our project. We explained them that our project follows this process, and we tried to do it in an educational way. There's contaminated water in some areas. These are polluted waters near the area. These waters are already in the area, and they don't provide any benefit for the community. When it rains, they pollute both the Sopaihuasi and the Colpamayo rivers, which creates a terrible problem in the area. People already know that their alpacas can't consume the water, and they know that these soils are absolutely useless to grow plants, not even to feed their animals, so they have this huge limitation. What can we do with this? Okay, we'll take all the contaminated waters in the area. This is our plan. First, we're going to place 2 points of reference so that we can capture all this polluted water through these points and we can use them for our processes in the mine site. We are planning on building 2 areas to capture the water so we can somehow channel all the contaminated water that doesn't generate any profit to the community in the area. And the inhabitants told me, okay, perfect, you'll capture the polluted water, but what are your plans to protect the rivers? Well, we're going to create a system that can help us to recover the ecology that this area used to have. We're going to build something called crown ditches so that we can channel the water. These are the crown ditches. Every time it rains, we're going to capture the polluted water through the crown ditches, and this water is going to help prevent that the contaminated waters touch, so they'll stay away from zones with high pollution levels. Additionally, through the crown ditches, we'll provide both the Sopaihuasi and the Colpamayo rivers with a better quality of water, and the Chacaconiza River as well, protecting them from pollution. This will also improve the soils and, of course, life quality. This made our workers talk more about our project, but not only in a technical way. They talked about it with great pride and a lot of enthusiasm. Why? Because it's a beautiful project, and it is worth it because we're recovering an area that was once polluted. We're reclaiming an area that they considered problematic, and we're turning it into something positive for them. We always tell our workers to be proud of their jobs because the company is doing its very best so that together we can overcome all the problems this community has. So they explained the project to others. People always have doubts, so we prepared a strategy. It was quite an interesting strategy. The baselines are actually set by companies in charge of the environmental impact studies. They usually send highly educated people with a lot of experience in the field, and they carry out the data collection. What we did was we took the young people, the professional ones who have certain knowledge or experience in this field, and let them make the baseline study with this company. Taking water samples is easy. Then you just send them to the lab and get the results, check the soil's condition. There are many elements that are very similar, so we made the baseline study. Not only with the company experts, but also with the young people of the area. It was very interesting when we did a workshop or the final hearing, and some complicated questions were asked. The young people from the community answered them. They asked first because they wanted to communicate too. They wanted to talk, to feel integrated. So they said, I can answer that question, and they did. They answered the question. For example, when someone said the samples they took are false, or the water is not polluted like they said, they answered, it's all true. We were there. We took our own water samples. We sent them to our own lab, and we received the same results that the company issued in their report. We have an agreement with the community. They are in charge of explaining the environmental impact study. If the Ministry of Energy and Mines asks me for an explanation of the study, the community must travel to Lima to explain it because of the agreement. They specifically have to explain it. I took the advantage of their knowledge because they know a lot about explosives, or how much ANFO do we need, how much of this, of that, or what kind of... Directly, yes, they're in charge of, yes, explain the whole by themselves. They came to Lima recently, and the young people gave a comprehensive explanation of how the mine works, from the way the exploration is done to the moment the mineral is finally extracted from the soil. Once they're convinced about the project, once there's trust, that's when we plan what can be improved and how can we improve it. And there are a lot of ideas. Hey, how about building a stadium? How about building a school? How about, I don't know, there are a lot of interesting ideas we could try. However, I tell them, have you thought about building a baseline together? What does a baseline mean? How's your education aspect? How's your health aspect? How's your business initiative plans? Are there any business initiatives that may benefit you aside from mine? And forget about the mine. Let's think about something else. I have no idea. Let's do it. So you have a remote community with a 0.43 or 44 HDI. Peru has an average of 0.71 or 72. It holds the 80th place, more or less, and of course, Corani is in a much lower position. So why do we mention this? To explain that we have to improve this HDI because it's really low. Do you like your spot in the ranking? Do you want to be considered poor people? No, we don't want to be poor. We want to change our lives. Okay. For that to happen, we need to tackle the health issue first. How's your health? So we approach the young people in the area to take the anthropometric measurements to find out the health condition of each one of the villagers, and we discovered a few interesting things. One of them was, for example, that children have vitamin B1 deficiency. Around 76% had that deficiency. What does it mean? Is it good? Is it bad? It means they might have episodic memory loss or Korsakoff syndrome. That's what it's called. And what's so risky about this syndrome? What does it mean? That the child may go to a good school, have a good computer, and an excellent teacher, but they might not learn the lesson and might forget everything they learned. So you have to make people understand that this situation must change. But you have to explain it carefully so that they fully understand the importance of vitamin B1. And so we took them through each aspect. That's right. Sometimes they tell us, you don't produce alpaca fiber. We've done this for generations. Let me tell you what I need. First of all, my alpacas need a genetic improvement to produce a better fiber. That's what they usually ask for. But first, let's talk about this animal's history. Tell me, do you know where the alpaca comes from? From the Andes, of course. 40 million years ago, they lived in North America. In North America? Yes, and back then the alpacas used to have 5-meter necks. Oh, we didn't know that. When they appeared, they were 30 centimeters. We didn't know, so we had to tell them the background of the alpaca, how they were born. Then we told them, whenever you see an alpaca, remember 4 key elements. First, the financial aspect, that is very important to you. Second, the technological aspect, that is the genetic improvements you talked about. You got that, no problem. Next, it's the legal aspect. Do you know all the procedures necessary to work legally? Do you have all your papers and documents in order? No, I haven't, but I will do it eventually. Finally, the fourth aspect, the market. How and who do you sell your product to? How do you approach the market? What's the quality of your fiber? Do you know how much alpaca fiber costs? No. Did you know that the vicuña wool fiber is more expensive? Yes, of course. How much does the vicuña fiber cost? $420 per kilo. That is the market price. And what about the alpaca? $9 more or less. There's a big difference. Yes. Do you know what makes the difference? A vicuña is a vicuña and an alpaca is an alpaca. That's not the difference. The difference is that the vicuña has 12 micron fibers, while the alpaca has between 19 to 21 microns. It's thicker. Thickness becomes a fundamental element. What does it mean? That if you reduce the thickness of your fiber, you will get a better price. With a better price from $9 to 420 soles, your life will change. It'll definitely have a great impact, but you have to take some steps first, and change won't be immediate. It'll take 10 to 15 years, and you'll have to work very hard and methodologically in order to succeed. Then we started explaining them how to take care of the alpacas, why this is so important, why they have to do this and that. They understood a lot of things. Education. Education is key because, for example, they approached me and they told me, I would like to be a truck driver, a truck operator. Okay, but you need to have a driver's license, and for that you must have finished high school. How many people here have finished it? Some made it to second or fourth grade. They hadn't finished it. So they were already missing one requirement. You have to establish the baseline, their profile, to know how we're going to work and how we're going to carry out the processes, so they improve their education and take advantage of the mine's benefits. Additionally, if you leave your current work aside and exclusively dedicate yourself to the mine, you'll neglect the alpacas. And in 2 years, you'll be experts in mining, but once the mine extractions are over, you'll have to return to the fiber production and you'll find them totally destroyed. So what at some point seemed like a good option for you could end up being a terrible alternative in the future. And on top of that, you've had broken the ecological balance of the area. It's not just the company. We'll work together to create new things with elements you have in your land and you're all familiar with, so people can see and appreciate your value, not only of the things around you, but also your value as a person, so others can appreciate you, and so they can recognize you as skillful, capable, and intelligent, who has what it takes to solve their own problems without anyone's help. We'll be nothing more than collaborators in this multiplier effect that will promote your development. The mine will definitely not have any workers from the area that used to be there. will hire the people that have just moved to the area, young people, their offspring, their nephews, their uncles, all the people who lived in the surroundings and are now moving in, they're all looking for a job in the mine. On the other side, the people who have been living there for years are more interested in developing the cultural aspect through business initiatives to have better opportunities. For example, it wasn't the first invention we created in the area, it's just so you can have a reference. This is a sock that contains silver. It has silver, and you can actually see it. Why does it have silver? Due to high conductivity. And high conductivity gives this sock an essential, important element. We initially used some yarn that we export to the United States for the socks. Nowadays, we are producing our own yarn with our own technology and even with our own patent. We're actually working on the final patent, and this sock will help us to protect people from any infection or any injury they might have. This sock is perfect for diabetic people because it helps them protect their skin. So we're creating all these things by mixing alpaca yarn and silver from the mine. What does this area have? Silver, which is what we're producing. What else do we have? Alpacas. Peru has almost 5 million alpacas, and I think we wouldn't be true Peruvians if we ignored their value and didn't use them to achieve a specific result. So our first mission was, how can we make this attractive without depending on fashion? That is, I'll wear alpaca today because it's cold. Tomorrow, I'm not wearing it and loses market value. What can we do to make this market sustainable? We mix them together and create the first healthy socks. And they're also anti-odor because you can wear them for 7 days in a row with no trouble at all. These socks can also help diabetic people. With this sock, they'll prevent any leg amputation because they'll avoid any type of strange friction that increases the chances of losing a limb. Yes, we found out that the Wichuyo of the area contains zinc, and zinc is the active principle of sunblock. So we made the first sunscreen based on Wichuyo. This is the first sunscreen made of Wichuyo, and since this plant has zinc, it helps people improve, protect their skin. But it also has other benefits, such as some vitamins like vitamin E and some antioxidants that help improve your skin. So all of this has been created there in the area, and we're trying to place them in the market because many families want to become entrepreneurs and develop business initiatives. For example, the the Wichuyo, its active principle is magnesium sulfate, which can help ease the pain. It's used very frequently, you know. It's really good because this product can ease the pain with its natural properties. It's kind of like an Andean icy hot. We found these elements after researching each one of the herbs and plants that grow there. We've also produced a beer. We made beer. Today we're working on a vinegar based on a fruit called gooseberry that grows around the rocks in the area. We asked them, "Is this a fruit?" "Yes, we eat it from time to time." We ate it and it's both bitter and sweet. We liked it and said, let's make a vinegar from this fruit. Hey, let's make a beer too. And so we did. We made the first beer based on this fruit and they're already being sold.
Esto es a partir también del licho.
Yes, yes,
El
yes.
tema del triaje y el tema de la altura, ¿no? Ese problema que siempre ataca a las familias en
Exactly.
épocas muy frías.
We're convinced that the area has its own solutions, and these own solutions will reduce cost and help us value the area culturally. Bringing things from other regions doesn't help. Giving them the possibility to develop is something that improves two things: self esteem and self realization. That motivates them. When you cover their psychological needs, when you cover their security needs with honesty and integration, they're motivated. You cover a fundamental need and you're motivating them too. In which way? They start believing. They believe in this, that they can do this with a mix of Indian potatoes and have a warm house for the first time thanks to something they've created. And they are proud of it. They made a plate with chuyo that can be used at their parties, and then they give it to the alpacas because it has starch, and that makes them happy. And there's also another product we're promoting, the Wichuyo shampoo. There are no bald people there, and there are very few with gray hair. That's another use for the Wichuyo, and this shampoo has potassium, which prevents hair from breaking or falling out. It also has magnesium, which strengthens the follicles. In other words, it has a lot of nutrients. We've discovered a lot of things and we're working on them.
¿Han tenido ustedes que enfrentar la acción de los antimineros? ¿No había antimineros en la zona?
That's interesting. When you've sold your product, and some anti-mining protesters come saying, hey, you're going to pollute the area. We ask them, how? With mercury. Mercury is only used for gold. It's not used for silver processes. It's used in gold processes. And they can't believe it. They simply don't know the process. But there will be smoke. Smoke? We just crush a stone and throw it in the water. There's no smoke. So we dismissed all their doubts, and they realized that the people, especially young people, are well prepared. We don't have to defend ourselves. I was really calm because the community people also like to talk about it, express their opinion. So they talked about what they learn and practice in the field in some way, and that actually helped us a lot, especially in the area, to correct and strengthen the people's knowledge of the product. Today, they don't talk about whether the mine is going to pollute or not. They talk about how much the mine is going to produce, so they changed their minds, and now it's no longer an environmental issue. Now it's a matter of how much it will benefit the community.
Hoy día hemos venido a justamente dar a conocer al país en su integridad, ya que las 5 comunidades, encabezado por sus autoridades, hemos podido entender de que la única razón de poder salir de la pobreza y dejar atrás estos índices de desnutrición, de pobreza extrema, es justamente dándole una oportunidad a la inversión privada y en este caso al proyecto Corani. Entonces hemos podido consensuar tanto el proyecto, las comunidades, para que juntos podamos desarrollar. Acá está mi riqueza, pero ¿cómo me vas a ayudar para salir de esta pobreza? Entonces el proyecto dice, bueno, autoridades, trabajaremos juntos para justamente poner este proyecto como un proyecto bandera, porque estamos seguros de que cuando empiece a explotar este proyecto, no todos se van a dedicar a la minería. No todos van a estar trabajando en la mina. Entonces, eso creo que también ha hecho para que toda la población de Corani pueda dar su respaldo y pueda dar una autorización social que se tome como ejemplo este distrito. Cómo es que cuando sí sus autoridades encabezan, porque estamos conscientes de que tenemos que salir de esta pobreza extrema y de esta desnutrición que está por años marcando los índices de Puno y del país, podamos salir adelante. Nosotros lo que sí vamos a hacer es una marcha solicitando que el estudio de impacto ambiental sea aprobado inmediatamente, porque no vaya a ser que el papá de Estado claro, se duerma y bueno, pues no diga, bueno, de acá al año le damos y bueno, hasta mientras los antimineros vayan a quemar y vayan a agitar y bueno, y se va cayendo estos proyectos. Nosotros, a partir de ahora, ponemos a la opinión pública de que el gobierno dé una mirada a este pueblo que se está organizando y que quiere salir de desarrollo, y por eso está permitiendo esta inversión que es importante para nosotros.
El pasado fin de semana, después de tocar varias puertas ministeriales, el alcalde Edmundo Cordero Guerra hizo que el presidente del Consejo de Ministros, Juan Jiménez Mayor, llegue a este olvidado pueblo, además del presidente regional Mauricio Rodríguez, el gerente de Bercream, Elisario Antúnez de Mayolo, junto a los presidentes de las comunidades para instalar la Mesa del Desarrollo del Distrito.
Esta visita se debe básicamente a su empuje, al empuje de Edmundo, del alcalde.
Y el día de hoy, en Corani, hemos instalado una mesa de desarrollo con una serie de ministerios que van a hacer anuncios importantes en los próximos meses de obras, de generación de espacios en donde vamos a dar oportunidad para que la población de Corani y de las zonas adyacentes, también de los distritos de la provincia de Carabaya, puedan tener la oportunidad que no han tenido hasta ahora.
Del sitio de Corani, a nombre del sitio de Corani, a nombre de nuestra región de Puno, lo hago a la entrega de este animal. Señor primero, señor ministro, me disculpen, muchas gracias.
Eso, vamos a tributar fuertes aplausos.
Las palmas, por favor.
Marco Peralta en este momento entregando uno de los mejores ejemplares a nuestro premier del Consejo de Ministros, el doctor Juan Jiménez Mayor.
All right, I know we're getting tired. tired of the forward-looking statement slide, so I'll skip past this relatively quickly and just point out that I will be making forward-looking statements. I can't get into intricate detail on everything today, so I do invite you to visit our website and see our filings for more fulsome details of some of the topics I'm going to be touching on. Oops, sorry. So where I'd like to focus my time in our talk today is on 6 key reasons we believe Bear Creek mining represents a compelling investment opportunity. First and foremost, as Eric mentioned, our flagship Corani deposit is one of the largest undeveloped silver polymetallic deposits in the world. Secondly, and no less importantly, we are highly leveraged to increases in silver, lead, and zinc prices. Corani has a projected 18-year mine life, and we believe this will capture at least one, if not more, of the coming metal price cycles. Corani is an executable mine. We believe it can be financed and built. We enjoy exceptional community and government support for the project,